Okay, so I managed to go in and like make this header bar pretty quickly. All right, so just to go in and take you through what we've done over here, I'm just reusing a few ones of CSS that we've already created in for the conversation item. So you can see I have the chat header over here. Okay, and it again goes in and like models according to the whole UI that we had over here. So I'm trying to keep the same proportions and everything. So the chart area header basically just has the icon, which is using the same property that we created for the conversation header. So same properties here again. Then we have the header text, which I made as a flex so that I can put these two data, which is the name of the conversation and the last, the timestamp right beneath it. And then at the very, again, I'm using in flex over here as well. Okay, so let me just show you that. So for this, if I just go in and so this is for grid, flexbox, main container, sidebar header, where exactly is our header, chat area header. There you go. So this is our chat area header. And as you can see, this is the flexbox container. It's getting highlighted in as it should. Okay. So there are 3 items and I made the middle one to grow in and grow as much as it wants so that, the other icons go in, the other elements that are present within this chart area container goes in and sticks to their own sites. Okay, so again, I'm using flex grow here in order to get this particular, layout. All right, so this is good. So we have our, we have this particular chart area header ready. And one thing which we should do though, but now you can see we're not maintaining the 30, we are not going in and maintaining the 30-70 proportion. And the reason is because we took out the flex property that we had went in and given. So I'm going to go in and do the same to our chart area container. Okay, so let's just go into a chart area container. And I'm going to give this the flex grow property, flex grow value of 0.7. And because of that, let's just go in and see what exactly is the case right now. So if I go in and jump back into my browser, okay, you can see now we have the 30-70 ratio proportion that we wanted, right? So this is how normally it would look without any zoom or anything whatsoever. And even if you zoom, the elements, as you can see, will go in and, size in accordingly. Okay, fine. So I'm just going to keep it to 100% for the time being. So we have a header ready. Okay. And for creating up the header, you don't need to go in and do much. So what I've done over here is, so this is the chart area header. I brought in the icon and then one of the 4 text, and then I have another icon, a clickable icon that I've created so that you can delete the conversation. Okay, so we'll give it functionality later on, but because we are going to be needing our backend so as to perform this operation, right? So we're going to give it, we're going to write some JavaScript so as to go in and perform this operation, but that will be needed in later when we go in and start with our backend. Okay, so the icon so we have created the icon layout as well. Now what we want to do is I just went in and reused a few bunch of classes that we had already created, and then just I have the bunch of rest of them. So I'm using a bit of flex so as to go in and get the proper responsive layout. Now what we can do is we can directly just quickly jump into our messages container and our input area and finish this off. Okay, all right, so in this part again, I'll suggest that you go in and you implement the same by yourself. Okay, but just in case, I'll just quickly go in and create these 2 particular containers, these 2 components, and we'll have our chat area ready. Now let's just go in and start creating our other 2 containers, which is our message container and our text input area container, right? So here again, let me just jump back and I'm going to quickly go in and build the same. Okay. Okay, so far what I've done is I went in and I've created the text input area where I haven't done much. All that is there is an input box, which is the same input box that I've used in the sidebar. So I just copied the same one in here and just added in a bunch of few additional properties like I changed the color of the text, and rest of that, all the other properties remain the same. Okay, so that would go in and take care of it. Also, we wanted a send button that would be present onto the right hand side so that we can go in and send the messages. So in order to go in and place them in their own correct positions, I've just went in and I've used, so if I'm taking this text input area here, so let me just go into text input area. There you go. I use the display mode as flex and the justify content value as space between, so that both of these elements, okay, so the input element and the icon element, both of these elements are going to go in and be as far away from each other as possible. Okay, so this is basically the case for our text input area, and you can see the difference, the main output that we have getting over here, right? So we have a really clean looking input box where I can go in and type some messages, and a send button as well that we can go in and customize later with some other color accent later on. But for the time being though, this would suffice to whatever that we need. Now let's just move in and make up our message box. All right. So for a message box, one of the things that we are going to do is we're going to create two separate components. One component for if it's the message that is sent by you, by the user. So it will be self message, okay, or message self. And we'll create another component and let's just call it as message others. So these two components are going to help us to go and render out messages sent by the user and also messages that are sent by someone else, right? So what we'll go in and do here is, it's fairly simple. I've created out two of these containers. As you can see, I have message others and I have another element created, which is message self. So this particular component will go in and display the messages that are sent by the user, and this one will go in and display all the messages that are sent by other people with whom you're having the conversation. Okay, so this again needs to go in and be changed out later on. So when we'll implement our backend, we'll make the messages to go in and be displayed out dynamically. So whatever is the message that we're going to get from our socket, we'll go in and display it within this element, within this component, message others and message self component. Okay, but for the time being though, I'll say we can just give it some fixed or some static message to go in and display for the time being. All right, so we're going to go in and get started with creating these two components. So we have two components, right? Message others and message self, that we're going to be using to go in and display the messages that are going to be, that are basically being sent out from one person to another. Okay, so let's just go in and quickly build this. Okay, all right. So this is what we have ended up with. All right. So let me just go in and show you all the changes that I made. So I've went in and I have built this overall UI altogether. Okay, with the chat container, the chat area, with the header function, with the buttons, and also the text input area as well. Okay. So now, how exactly was this process done? It's a bit fairly simple. I'm just using multiple components all together. So if I take you into my code over here, you'll be able to see I have created multiple components like message others and message self, much like what we had discussed in before. I'm using this message others component to go in and render out a message which is sent by others, and message self to render out a message which is sent by us, by self. Right. In both the cases, I just used basic flex to go in and get the particular message box kind of layout. And then again, by using flex, the align, the justify content property, I've used flex end and flex start to go in and get these two particular elements. Like if others are sending the message will go in and start from the left hand side, which is by default what is kind of the default behavior that you get from it. And for the self user, I've kind of done the same exact thing here as well, but I've changed the justify content property to that of flex end, so that it goes in and sticks to the right hand side. So this is my overall container, as you can see, and I've specified the content as flex end, so that it's fairly easy to go in and do. So if I change this to flex start, we'll just go in and update this. So we can change out the values to flex start, so it will go in and get aligned to the left hand side. I want this particular one to the right hand side, so we are using flex start over here. I'm just going to quickly refresh this and it goes back to where it was. Okay, so this is fine. The input text area part is basically same as that of the search box, but I just added in a button at the end and it just goes in and gets the job done. For the icons and everything, I'm just reusing the same CSS styles that we had already created. So I'm basically just repurposing this particular item, right? The conversation item, and I'm repurposing the CSS that I had written for that, and basically just create up this UI of ours, right? So this basically does it. This is going to be our main chat area component. Okay, so we created a chat area component. This is going to go in and switch back or swap across to other components depending on what functionality you want and in need, right? So the overall process of going in and making this is fairly simple. Now, one of the reasons though that we went in and we created these two components, the message others and message self, is because here again, we don't know how many messages have happened before, right? So depending on whatever amount of conversations or whatever amount of text the person would have went in and done already, we'll be able to go in and render out as many message other components and as many message self components as well, right? So if I just go in and drop in a bunch of few more others in the mixture, you will be able to go in and see. I'll just throw this in for the time being, right? So yeah, 4 is enough. So you'll be able to see that all the messages are going to go in and keep getting stacked on top of each other, all right? And this is kind of what we want. Okay, we want that regardless of how many other messages are going to show up, so all the messages should go in, okay, and should go in and pop up one after another, right? So what we're doing here is we're just utilizing, we're going to be fetching in the information on all the messages that have been received so far, okay? And depending on whether the message is sent by us or whether it has been sent by someone else, by others, we can render out whichever component you want, okay? So if I want to go in and display a message which has been sent by another user, then I will go in and render out our other content. So we have a self message and the other message container. So the other message container is going to go in and get rendered out. But if that is not the case, then the self message container will go in and get rendered out, because this is a message that we would have sent, right? So this kind of makes up our entire UI, right? Our basic web UI, I would say, for our chat application. All the chats are going to go in and start getting popped out over here. Okay. Now, another thing we will go in and take care right now and now itself. Okay, I'll open up my console over here so that you guys are able to see this. Now, let me just show you one case that we will go in and come across. And that is that, for example, if I add in 2 more messages now, okay, and if I refresh my web page, you can see that this container goes out of the main container, right? So the chat area container. So what you want to do is, at any point of time, if there is some kind of overflow, okay, so we have the messages container. So what we're going to do is, we'll go into the messages container and we'll say overflow, okay, and we'll just set it to scroll. Okay, so the thing here is, now you'll be able to go in and see the scrolling functionality that you generally tend to go in and get. Okay, we can customize this scroll bar that we have, but at any point this scroll bar is only going to go in and show up if the amount of messages cannot be contained within that of our this chat area. Okay, so we'll be going in and customizing this a bit more later up. Okay, but for the time being though, I would say that yes, we do have a working chat area component, and we'll, in the next video, we're going to go in and build all the other additional set of components that we're going to require, and we can then move on to adding in some routing and the theme toggle part as well. All right, so that would be all for this particular video. See you in the next one.